Hello, this recording is about demonstrating the Tracky FVMS product. This is the fuel voucher management system that is based on a cloud solution. It is available in the Gambia for immediate deployment between gas suppliers and business customers. It is currently a B2B solution, and the future phases would introduce the payment gateway and individual purchases of fuel vouchers from gas suppliers. The background to this video is basically a product designed by Tracky Solutions to enable efficient usage of fuel procurement services between the gas suppliers and the business customers. Tracky originally looks at asset tracking and asset fuel monitoring services, and this is an extension of that particular set of products to now include the fuel purchasing program between businesses and gas suppliers, removing the paper-based systems and introducing this essentially e-processing between the two. So what I'm going to do today is basically give an essential visual demonstration of how the fuel voucher system works to allow possible understanding of what this product will give to both the gas suppliers and the business customers, and hopefully also to integrators of the product. So the first question is, what is Tracky FVMS and what is it supposed to do? Or what is this disruptive aspect in the market space? Tracky FVMS is a fuel voucher management system where it aims to replace the current systems of producing paper-based fuel vouchers by gas suppliers like GAP to individual companies, for example, Afrisal or Gamtel, and whereby those paper vouchers are given out to vehicles and individuals to go to the petrol stations to acquire the stated amount on the vouchers at the forecourt. Tracky FVMS allows businesses and petrol stations to get rid of all the fraudulent activities and mismanagement of the system. This cloud service would allow paperless vouchers to be printed and distributed to customers by the gas supplier, and there is a framework of approval mechanism surrounding this to ensure that the vouchers are used where they're supposed to be. The way this works is the system allows gas suppliers to create vouchers for specific customers and for specific fuel types. So for example, GAP can produce vouchers for its diesel product at an agreed price with a specific customer like Afrisal, and print those vouchers out within the system specifically for Afrisal to use. And once those vouchers are produced in the system by a gas supplier administrator, those vouchers will be made visible to the gas supplier manager to approve. Once they're approved, it becomes a valid voucher that can be presented to the customer, in this case AfriCell. At that point, this same system would allow AfriCell to see those vouchers as being available for their use, and again with segregation of duty in mind, the vouchers can then be picked up and assigned to registered vehicles in the system. So a particular voucher will be assigned to a particular vehicle. Those assignments will then be sent to the customer's manager for approval. Once these assignments are approved by the manager, the vouchers are available to use by that vehicle, and the information about the availability of the voucher can be sent immediately to the driver assigned to that vehicle, so that he's aware that the voucher is ready for use. In some cases, these vouchers can actually be assigned to individuals rather than particular vehicles, but the only caveat to that is if the individual goes to the forecourt in any vehicle, you will need to provide sufficient identification for the voucher to be fulfilled by the forecourt operators. So once these vouchers are assigned, they are also immediately available for the respective forecourts to see the voucher has been one to be fulfilled by them. Vouchers are printed out in two formats. A voucher can be printed where it can be used at any forecourt for the gas supplier. So GAP, for example, can issue a voucher that is presented in any of its forecourts in the Gambia, and it will be honored by the forecourt administrators. Or they can print a voucher specific to a particular forecourt. So a voucher that will say, allow AfriCell $500 of diesel petrol at my Brussels turntable forecourt. So it will tie the usage to a particular forecourt. So those are the two ways of presenting to, and the next process is obviously for the forecourt assistants to be able to check the system, recognize vouchers that have been approved for specific vehicles, and to basically dispense the stated monetary value or liters of the specific fuel type into the vehicle. And once that is done, there will be notifications sent out to both the management teams of the gas supplier and the customers to know that that particular vehicle at a particular time in a particular forecourt has been allowed to dispense the fuel. So that in a very simplistic way is what the fuel voucher management system allows us to do. What it does get rid of is the complications of managing the fuel vouchers, where vouchers can be used by practically anyone to put petrol into the vehicles. With this system, all that will go away completely, and only valid vouchers will be allowed to be used in the system. Vouchers would need to be assigned to assets that are registered in the system by the customers. So vehicles that are not part of the fleet would not be in the system, because each vehicle would need to be approved by a manager once they are entered in before they can be used in the system. And the same with also the users of the system. They are vetted and approved before they can use the system. The system is controlled by segregation of duties. You will have within the gas supplier world uh, people responsible for creating the vouchers. These people will be different from the people that are managers that will approve the vouchers to be created. And there will be people called system administrators that would need to set up the required uh, documentations to allow vouchers to be created. Documentations like having an agreement in the system between the gas supplier and the customer, which must exist before vouchers can be printed again for them. We would also have the different fuel types that gas supplier is offering and the individual prices for them, so that we can use it to calculate values at a later stage. And we would have other different roles as required by the business. The system allows different roles to be created for each business or gas supplier to accommodate the way they want to work. And that can be easily demonstrated when we have a face-to-face with um, prospective clients. The cloud system tracking FVMS is downloadable through the general Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. You just need to check or type in FVMS, and the Tracky FVMS system will come up for you to download. And it is immediately usable once you've registered or you've had a talk with us and we register your details. Normally, the user ID will be your unique email ID, and you'll be supplied with an initial password for you to log on and change once you log in for you to work within the system. Your username will be linked to a specific role. So if you're an administrator, you will only be able to do administrative aspects of the system. The management roles will be different from yours, as well as the system administrator roles, which would also be completely different from the forecourt assistant that will be dispensing the fuel when vehicles arrive at their forecourt. To demonstrate the product itself, I would start by looking into logging in using a username that I've created. So in this case, I'm starting the whole process as an administrator for a gas supplier. So I'll log in, and the login screen will be showing you on the left hand side the dashboard and the menus. Uh, you will have the name of the company that the user belongs to on the upper side, and the last login details. There will be bell notifications in terms of all the activities they're currently doing that they need to pay attention to. There will be a section about what the username is. They can change the password if they need to. And the last button is the log off button. On the left hand side, it would show all the functions within the system that they can interact with. It does not show them all the full menu, but it shows them exactly what they're able to do with the role they've been assigned. Uh, in this case, you have for this particular administrator, they can review the users that belong to that particular company. In this case, I've got about 7 people registered for GAP, and they all have different job titles, which mimics the roles. So you have the forecourt assistant, forecourt administrator, uh, business manager that's responsible for approving stuff. You have the senior business administrator that can be delegated to approve by the business manager. And you have the system administrator that deals with creating users and creating all the agreements for that particular gas supplier. In there, you also have forecourts. This lists out all the different forecourts for the gas supplier, and they're created here. So there could be X amount of forecourts, but each are individually listed in this area. So this is where they create all the forecourts that they want the system to be used at. And you have the fuel types, which again tells you for that gas supplier, these are the fuel types on offer. And it basically just gives a list of all the different fuel types that they have, that they're selling. And this is eventually linked to a price list. Right. And what this price list will do for you is for the gas supplier by customer and the fuel type that they're selling, it lists out the price they're using in this system to honor the agreement with the customer. So what this allows is for this oil company to be able to use different pricing for the different customers that they have onboarded for the different fuel types. Right. Customers is basically allowing the administrator at this point to do two things: to list out the drivers that will be in the system and to list out the assets. We'll go to the assets first. And in this case, the first asset is basically an individual, a person named Abdul Salah. And this individual, once he produces his identification at any of the four courts, will be able to use the voucher assigned to him in the system on any vehicle that he takes along with him to the forecourt. This is not normally the default. The default will be to actually have specific car registrations that will be seen as assets in the business. So, for example, in here we have what we call the buyers department for this particular company customer, uh, and the company is Bacchus Restaurant, and this is the registration number of the vehicle that they'll be assigning vouchers to honor with GAP. What you must understand with the screen I'm showing you is a listing of GAP oil customers and all the assets involved in it. So you have different companies like Bacchus Restaurant, Trust Bank, Gateway Supermarkets, all having their vehicles registered on the GAP oil. So these vehicles will be valid vehicles that can be assigned vouchers by the customers themselves at a later stage, but GAP oil will have visibility of all the valid assets. And it will also have visibility of the drivers that are using those vehicles at that point in time. So drivers are registered as well as the customer assets by the actual customers themselves, but the oil company will have visibility of what has been entered to check and see and validate that indeed they are who they say they are. So in this case, you will have drivers like the ones for Trust Bank here, Lamin Abdullahi. A security ID will be provided, maybe his driving license number or some other numbers like the social security number or NIN number or TIN number. The company he belongs to, his email and his contact number will be available. What this does for the system is if a voucher is assigned to a car and a driver is assigned to that car, we will use this email to send the driver a notification automatically to say a voucher is ready for him to be utilized. And if that company subscribes to SMS, we will send an SMS to the driver to tell him about the availability of the voucher. One of the other things the petrol supply administrator can see is the agreements between them and the different suppliers. So if we look at the first one, there is an agreement with Bacchus Restaurant for Gap Suede Petrol, and it is active. So each one of these will show an agreement between the customer and the gas supplier for a fuel type. And the start date and end date will tell you the period for this agreement to be in place, and it would also automatically use the price list based on the date periods that they've engaged. For the system to work, these agreements must be in place for any vouchers to be produced or used. If vouchers are produced for Bacchus Restaurant and they've not utilized it to the end date, then the vouchers become automatically invalid. Also, the managers for or the administrators for the gas supplier can toggle this active status uh, as I'm doing here, and in this case it's only the manager that will be able to change that status from active to inactive, not the administrator. That's why it's filled there. But normally a manager will log in and change that status to inactive. That would make any voucher invalid in the system for Bacchus Restaurant until the issue has been resolved. So they could suspend the vouchers if they've not received payment, for example, although we do recommend a postpaid service, and for whatever reason that can be suspended until it's reactivated again by the manager. Then the actual vouchers themselves come in four to five stages. You have what we call pending. Pending basically is the situation where the vouchers have been created and nothing else has been done. So in this case, a batch of maybe n numbers of vouchers have been created for a particular customer, and that creation has happened, but it has not been approved by the manager for use yet. So it's just pending. And the upper right hand section where my mouse is shows how the administrator can add new vouchers. So you can create vouchers at this point against valid customers. So for example, the GAP administrator can decide we need to create this month's vouchers for Gamtel, and the vouchers will be $2,000 each for petrol. So they would add what is needed. Like in this case, I will be able to pick the gas supplier. I can only pick the supplier I'm logged on as. I'll be able to select my customers out of my list. I'll be able to select the fuel type based on what I've decided. So I can say the diesel one, and here I can put in a quantity. So my quantity is based on either I'm talking monetary value or I'm talking liters. So in this case, I can say I want to issue vouchers for $2,000, and I click on monetary value. and move on from there. So what that would mean is, hold on, this is the quantity. So I can say I want to produce 100 vouchers based on money for a value of $2,000. The currency does not need to be specified. The currency is part of the system that looks at who is logged on and which country they belong to. So based on the country, the currency of that country will be generated. And you have the option at this stage to select a forecourt if you wanted out of the forecourt for the gas supplier, which means that voucher will only be usable for that forecourt. If you leave it empty, that means it will be available for any of the forecourts for the gas supplier. And you put in a start date in here for the vouchers to start to become active, and there's an automatic end date of um, normally 3 months in advance, but in this case it's done it for the same day. So you can change that to the specific end date you want, or you can leave it blank. That means it's available till the voucher is used. And you submit this, and once you submit, it will go away and create these vouchers as spending vouchers in the system. So it will create 100 unique vouchers at $2,000 each for Trust Bank to use at Gap forecourts for this fuel type. So when you issue this voucher, the asset will only be able to claim for that particular fuel type for that amount. I won't submit this because this is a demonstration. But what you'll find is when you submit, this becomes what you'll see here. You'll see the batch ID for that submission, and you can also have a batch name for you to identify the different batches you create, and the voucher number is electronically supplied here, who it belongs to, who the gas supply is, the value in terms of liter or money. If there's a specific forecourt that's been selected, it means they will be able to use that at forecourt, and this is the fuel type they will be able to get from the forecourt. Pending vouchers are visible to managers of the gas supplying company. They'll be able to go in here and basically click on the batch ID. In this case, you're getting this information about the batch, and the status is pending approval. For the manager, when they log on, they will have a button here that says approve, whereby they will list out all the different batches vouchers in that batch, scan through it, make sure it's fine, and then they approve it. When they approve the voucher, they become active vouchers for use. Okay, in this case, this is my active vouchers. So once the manager has approved, the active basically means the vouchers are ready to be assigned to particular assets by the administrator. So the administrator in this case will come into this active area and look for the particular voucher they need to. So in this case, this is showing 50 liters for sweet petrol for the Bacchus restaurant owner. At this point, uh, that is all the gas company administrator can do, that they've made them active for the business to use. All the other tabs are basically for the customer themselves to use. What I can say about the upload voucher is in some situations there could be existing paper vouchers during the cutover, we can create an Excel spreadsheet and upload those vouchers into the system so that they can start using the system, even with the paper-based ones, and get rid of the paper vouchers and start using the electronic system. In which case, when we upload, the voucher numbers will be the same as the paper voucher numbers and not generated by the system here. So if I log off Elizabeth and I log on to one of the users that is so I can see someone called business admin David Moore. Excuse me. So I can type in so David will come in as an administrator for Bacchus Restaurant. Again, if you look at the upper tab of the screen, the name of the user's company is shown, as well as his name, and he'll be able to see this dashboard, and the customer listings will be, as I showed with the gas supply administrator, but they'll be able to fill this in themselves now. And the vouchers, again, the pending is no longer with them, but they would have active vouchers only showing the ones for that company, Bacchus, and it's from this particular gas supplier. So everything related to Bacchus will show up for him for each gas supplier that they're engaged with. And at this point, the administrator for Bacchus could decide we are going to assign this voucher to one of our assets. And how to do that is to click on the voucher you're interested in. So in this case, this particular voucher for 50 liters to be a dispensed at traffic lights petrol station for GAP, and you assign to assets by clicking on the blue button here. And what it will say to you is it will give you a list of the assets, and all the assets for Bacchus is shown up. You pick on the particular asset you're interested in this case the operations manager's car, and you say yes to that. I ask you if you want to assign, and there it goes. It goes away from the active to the assigned. And when it's on the assigned level, again, assignment is only visible for the administrator. It won't be able to do anything with it, but the manager can now log on and approve that assignment. Once he approves it, it becomes something visible to the forecourt administrator for the gas company. So when the forecourt administrator logs on, they will only see assigned vouchers against specific assets. And when that asset comes to the forecourt, they can cross it off and dispense the value of the voucher onto the order, and then basically says it has been fulfilled. So what I would do is I'll try and pick up on a manager for Bacchus Restaurant, approve an assignment, and then log on as a forecourt administrator that would dispense the voucher. So I'll log off here, pick Distant manager Abdul Salah at bacchus.com. And I've logged in as the manager for Bacchus Restaurant. His name is Abdul. What I will do at this point is go on to the vouchers and look at my assigned. So at this point it's been assigned. This particular voucher has been assigned to delivery service 2, requisition number BJL is 645P. And for auditing purposes, it tells you the gas supplier manager that's approved it, the client manager that's approved the voucher, the approval dates, who's created the voucher originally. So there is an audit trail about who's doing what. And in this case, the status is showing as signed approved, which means it's already valid to be picked up by the forecourt administrator. So if I try and look, just use this particular number here. I've not demonstrated picking up an active one and approving it by the manager. That's a step I'm not doing at the moment. But if I take this particular voucher number and log out from the manager's screen and I look at a gap forecourt assistant, if I can find one. So there's a one here called Samuel Injai for the traffic light forecourt. So I'll log in as him. Samuel Injai will be able to dispense vouchers that have been assigned to his forecourt and also vouchers that have no assignment to a forecourt. And what he will see on his screen is just the assigned vouchers and the fulfilled ones. So if I query back the particular voucher, which is here, it's assigned, it's 50 liters. In this case, the forecourt assistant will see this voucher and realize that it's for this Bacchus restaurant and it's for this particular vehicle. So we check that the vehicle in front of him has this particular number plate, and he will go ahead and dispense 50 liters of super clean diesel into the vehicle. And once it's done that, we'll mark this voucher and dispense. So it clicks on the dispense voucher amount and it tells you, are you sure you want to fulfill this? Yes. and the voucher has been spent on the vehicle and it goes away. What happens in the background are that email notifications are being sent out to both the GAP administrator to say the voucher has been used, and it will also be sent to the customer administrator and manager that the voucher has been used. So in this way, there's a full loop between the gas supply and the customer in the system, where vouchers are created, assigned to valid assets, and dispensed at the forecourts that they're supposed to be. So that in a nutshell is a very quick demonstration of how the system is meant to behave. There are obviously more activities behind the scenes that would need to be set up to make sure that it works as seamlessly as this. There are situations, for example, where we spoke about notifications. Notifications are done in two ways, either by SMS or emails. We offer free email services, so there's no extra money to be paid on that. But if SMS are needed by the customer or the gas supplier, then they will need to pay extra charges for SMS communications for the system. And that about wraps up what I've got for you today in terms of what Track FVMS is doing. It's a good introduction in terms of what it does, and I would expect that if anyone looking at this would come back with their own questions specifically to see how it works for them and if they have any suggestions on what the system is doing or not doing. Thank you.